Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Veda and this is The Simple Budget. Here on my channel, I show you how my family is using the zero-based budgeting method in order to get out of debt and simplify our financial life. If that sounds like content that you're interested in, I would love it if you would hit the subscribe button and join our little crew here. And with that being said, let's get into today's video. All right, so you may notice that the lighting has changed even just since I filmed my intro. The sun is being the most right now. And I had to pull my blinds up because I didn't want to blind you guys and I didn't want the lighting to be like wonky. I recognize there's like, a sunshine square here right now, but I'm thinking that might change a little bit as we continue filming. But anyways, today's video is going to be a significant departure from my usual budget with me. And the reason for that is because I get a lot of comments kind of sprinkled throughout my different videos asking just kind of very basic questions about budgeting and zero-based budgeting and how I make this decision or that decision as far as our budget is concerned. And so I figured that I would turn September's budget with me into a little bit more of a how-to. So this is a how to budget or how to budget using the zero-based budgeting and cash stuffing methods. But I did just want to make sure that I kind of honored the different questions that I get in from time to time that are from people who may be new to budgeting or new to zero-based budgeting and make this video. This is the second time that I am filming this because if you're an OG subscriber, you know that I have a tendency to ramble. And I was well over an hour and it was absolutely ridiculous. So I'm going to try to make this as streamlined as possible. The reason I have this flipped over is because my entire budget is already written out on here for the month of September. But if you are new to my channel, just a quick little intro. Again, my name is Veda. I'm a 38-year-old wife and mother. I have 2 kids and we live in Texas in the DFW area. And we have only been zero-based budgeting and cash stuffing since January of this year. And you may wonder why I think that I'm qualified to make a how to budget video based on that criteria. But if you kind of peruse my channel, you'll see starting with our debt confession back in January, we had about just under $59,000 of debt, I think, when we started the year. And I cannot actually remember what our current balance is as far as our debt is concerned, but I do have a debt playlist that I'll link so that you can watch our most recent, it was our Q2 update, which was I think at the end of June. And we are going to be filming a Q3 update at the end of September so that we can just kind of keep everybody just up to date on our debt situation because we are aggressively paying it down. And just so you can see like how we go about doing it. But because of that, I do think that I'm sort of uniquely qualified to speak to the vast majority of American people who, as a country, we hold a lot of debt and we have a spending problem. And I was certainly one of those people. I'm what I like to lovingly refer to on here as a recovering spender. And so that is kind of where I'm coming from as you listen to me talk about zero-based budgeting. So first, to just get this out of the way, a zero-based budget is a budget in which you give every single dollar that you are paid a job. And there will be other terminology that we use throughout here, like sinking funds are a big one. They are the bread and butter of the zero-based budget as far as I'm concerned, because once you get past I have to pay my bills, I have certain life expenses, I may have debt that I'm, throwing money at, or savings or retirement or whatever. The rest of your budget is, whether you acknowledge it or not, is made up of sinking funds. And those are funds or categories of your budget where the expense comes around once, twice, maybe 3 times a year. And that is how you go about zero-based budgeting, because you take your extra money after you account for things like bills and expenses and debt and so forth. And you put your extra money, you split that up among different categories in your budget that, like I said, come around once, twice, 3 times a year, to make sure that you have the money there and available to you to spend when you need it. So think your oil change for your car, or Christmas, or birthday parties, different hosting events that you host at your house, just having friends over for drinks, or charcuterie, which is one of my favorite things to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip this over, show you guys how we go about zero-based budgeting, and then I'll get into what do we do, how do we plan out our money for the month based off of what our needs are for that particular month. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave you guys zoomed out because I'm pretty sure this is visible. Yes, so this is our budget for the month of September. Maybe I will zoom you guys in. Hang on. All right, here we go. So we're all zoomed in now, and this is the full and total picture of our budget for the month of September. Now, something to note is that September is what is referred to as our magic month. And way to throw a random piece of terminology in if you're new to budgeting and confuse you. So a magic month is a month in which you get an extra pay or an extra pay period. So for example, if you're paid on a weekly basis, you get 4 paychecks a month, except for a magic month where you'll get 5 paychecks a month. Or if you're if you're paid biweekly, you're gonna get 3 pays that month instead of 2. And so my husband is a biweekly salaried employee. And so this March this year and September this year were his magic months. And so I'm an hourly wage earner, and the way that my work does it, I am only paid twice a month regardless. So each pay will have a different number of shifts within it. And I usually have about 6 to 8 shifts per pay period. So we don't really do like a magic month for me, but my husband does have a magic month. And so it impacts our budget significantly, as you can imagine. And so that's why these numbers look a little crazy. If you are a regular viewer of my channel, some of these things are much higher than what they typically are. But we'll get into that. So with any budgeting system, hold on, let me just address this. Any of the sheets that you see here are available in my Etsy shop. I use my own products to facilitate the budget in our house. And that's anything that you see here, unless I state otherwise, is actually available in my Etsy shop. So if you're interested in utilizing the same sheets that you see here, you can find my Etsy shop linked below in the description bar. Otherwise, a pen and paper works just as well. And that's what we did for a while. So anyways, now that I've gotten that out of the way, any budget is going to start with income. You have to know what you're going to make in order to know how you're going to make it work for you. So my husband's 3 paychecks I've just consolidated here because they are the same every single time he gets paid, no matter what. And so his total this month is going to be $11,530.35. I am paid 2 times a month, as I mentioned. And like I said, there's always like a variance in how many shifts I work per pay period. So I break them down just so that when we are going over how we're going to fund our budget for the month, we know when to expect certain income to come in. So that's why mine is broken down separately. So my first pay is going to be $628.20. My second pay is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,008. This one we know a little bit more specifically right now, just because My first pay of September is actually from the shifts that I worked in the second part of August. So that's why I'm able to sort of predict down to the cent what I'm going to be bringing in. So collectively, for the month of September, we are working with $13,166.55. As I mentioned, this is not typical because this includes an extra pay from my husband. So whenever you are getting into the conversation of a budget, I always say to start with bills and expenses. Now, if you are a student of, or you've ever heard of Dave Ramsey, his recommendation is that you have your budget absolutely down to the bare bones necessities, and all of your extra money goes toward debt. We are sort of following the Dave Ramsey baby step method while we pay our debt down, but we are including other things that are not just bare necessities in our budget because, for a variety of reasons, but mostly it's because we are relatively confident in our job stability. And so we don't feel like we need to cut everything down to the bare bones and just put everything else at debt in order to still be aggressively paying down our debt. And you'll see, if you do watch my debt check-in videos, we are throwing a ton of money at debt every single month. We are not taking it seriously. We're just trying to implement a system that works for us moving forward so that when we do pay off our debt, not much will change because we'll already have a decent system in place in order to facilitate a good budget moving forward after our debt is paid off. And holy smokes, I cannot wait for that. But anyways, so what we do is we break down first what our bills and expenses are. And these are things that come about every single month that you can essentially count as an expense. I would consider this a high priority part of your budget. So you have to think about the things, a lot of people call it like the four walls, like your house, your utilities, groceries, things like that. And so that's kind of how we break this down. We do have a couple of extra things in here that aren't really in that category, but it's mostly just so that I, have space on either side as well. So anyways, so first up, our mortgage is $2,475.88. And that never changes. Well, it might change depending on property taxes and all that kind of stuff, but that would be an annual update. It's not something that we have to worry about on a monthly basis. Our water bill is something that varies from month to month. And so if you are new to budgeting, my recommendation for you, and it will be the same for any kind of variable expense in your world, is to try to figure out what your average is on a monthly basis. So for example, we spend more on water in the summertime because we water our lawn. And so what we've attempted to do here is to figure out how much money we need to put toward our water bill every single month in order to make sure that we've got enough money sitting there on the months where our water bill is higher. And then on the months where our water bill is lower, if it's lower than $115, that money just builds up in your checking account or wherever you put it. If you cash pool it, which we'll go over, that money will just continue to build up in your envelope or in your checking account throughout the year so that it's there and ready for when you do have a high water bill. Our life insurance never changes. It's always $42.06. Our car insurance has been fluctuating recently, and so we have decided to just kind of throw between $120 and $125 a month at it. We are going to be shopping around for some new car insurance because we have no clue why they keep raising our rates, but that's neither here nor there. Basically, this is a somewhat variable expense, but it does live closer to this number than say our water bill, which really fluctuates. It just depends on our water usage for that month. And jiu-jitsu is an expense in our house because my husband and son train jiu-jitsu. And so this is the cost for it every single month. Our internet doesn't change from month to month. It's always $55.58. And our phone bill doesn't really change either, I think. It's $110.68 every time. Our electric bill, however, is the same as our water bill. It does fluctuate based on usage. And so we have figured out that our average is about $200 a month. And that helps for the summer months in Texas where it is super duper hot. We've had like strings of over 100-degree days. We're in a cold front right now in the 90s, which I'm very excited about. But anyways, electric costs much more in the summertime when we're using the air conditioner, and it actually costs a lot in the winter when we're trying to heat our home as well, if it's, if we have a significant cold front come through. So the average for us is about $200 a month. And like I mentioned with the water bill, if we have a month where it's lower than this, we still keep that money in our electric bill fund so that it can continue to roll over from month to month to support the months where it might be higher than this. Groceries is a controversial topic on this channel. If you are new to my channel and you're seeing my grocery bill right now, I'm sorry to tell you that there is nothing new that you could say to me here that isn't something that somebody has already said in shock and horror about our grocery bill. Full disclosure, it is not usually this much every single month, but because the last paycheck of September has to fund the first 2 weeks of groceries for October, whenever we get our extra pay at the end of September, and I'll show you on my calendar in just a moment here, what we make sure is that we're not just spending that extra paycheck all willy-nilly. We have to make sure that we cover certain expenses in our life with that extra pay, and groceries is one of them. So that's why this is so high for the month of September, because actually this isn't just funding groceries for September, it's funding groceries for September and part of October. Same with Target. It is a category in our budget that we give money toward to fund groceries that we purchase specifically from Target. This money, our grocery money, we cash pool. This money stays in our checking account since we have the Target Red Card and only spend with a debit card. I buy all the rest of our groceries via cash. Gas is gas for our car. It doesn't usually get this much from us either. However, we went over gas a little bit in the month of August because we went on vacation and we drove there. So we were using more gas than we usually do. So we're kind of compensating for that and just making sure that we are putting enough toward it for the month of September also. Household and toiletries are pretty self-explanatory categories in your budget. We put them over in the bills and expenses category because if all else goes away, you still need toilet paper and soap. So that's why I put them over here. I consider them a high priority item and something that we will continue to fund always and forever, even in the event of a drastic life event change, like my husband losing his job or something like that. Because he is the primary wage earner in our home. I have an hourly job and I don't make that much. He is basically the breadwinner here. But yeah, so this is something that I get questions for a lot. Like, how much money do you know to put aside for household and toiletries every single month? And the answer for that is a very lame and vague. You just got to kind of play it by ear. If you were establishing a budget in your home, I would encourage you to look at the last 6 months of spending and figure out kind of what you're spending on household and toiletries every single month, or on average for a 6-month period, and then break that down into what it costs you on a monthly basis and just kind of try to go from there. When it comes to budgeting, the most important thing to remember is to be kind to yourself and to be flexible, because things are going to change. You have to work around what you think you might spend if you're just establishing a budget for yourself for the first time. And so just be willing to push and pull and move funds here and there while you're sorting that out. And you'll find your rhythm as you go along. It's just something that like I said, you have to give yourself some grace. You have to recognize that things might change a little bit as you go. But especially when it comes to sinking funds, it is a flexible expense. And so you just have to, don't get stuck into the one way of doing it. Recognize that things are going to change and you might need to move things around, and that's okay. Subscriptions is a category in our house that is like our Apple Music, Netflix, things like that. And it gets $52.75 every single month. Pest control is a service that we pay for that comes to our house once a quarter. And so we put, we put $40 a month toward pest control because we only have to pay it quarterly. But this is like what we call a sinking fund. You want to make sure that the money is sitting there and waiting for you when you get to that quarterly expense. And so we just earmark $40 a month in our budget to make sure that that money is sitting and waiting there for us, ready to be used whenever the pest control people show up. So Prime, this is Amazon Prime. This is another example of a sinking fund. So Prime, if you're unfamiliar, Amazon Prime has an annual membership fee that you pay. And so we broke that down, and monthly it's $12. And so every single month we put $12 aside for our Amazon Prime membership, so that the money is there and ready and waiting for us when we get around to having to pay for it. Taxes is a category in our budget this really just funds the expense of the gentleman who prepares our taxes for us. So it pays the CPA or whatever, accountant, whatever he is. Our HOA, pretty self-explanatory. We live in a neighborhood that has an HOA, and so we have to put $20 a month toward it to make sure that we have the money there and waiting for us when the bill is due at the end of January. Union dues is something for my husband's job, and right now we're putting $30 a month at it. This is what I meant when I said being flexible with your budget. My husband forgot until I don't even remember, it was like May or June of this year that this was an expense that had to be saved for in our budget. And so right now it's getting $30 a month. When he pays the bill for the union dues for his job, then I think it will go down to like $10 a month, because that's all it would be costing us if we were saving for it for an entire year. But again, like I mentioned, he forgot about it. And so that's one of those things where you talk about, so you just move some cash here and there, figure out a way to accommodate something like that in your budget and make that happen. The finance coach is very specific to us. It's very specific to our budget. We get questions about it every now and then, and I do try to offer an explanation semi-regularly just for people who are new to my channel. But it's a guy who we pay an annual fee to. It's kind of like a subscription. It's $65 a year, and he watches the stock markets and kind of gives recommendations for where to put different your retirement fund. The $65 that we pay a year is a microcosm of how much he is worth. So, and this is another one where we weren't able to fund it for an entire year. And so it's getting a little bit more money every single month than it will once we pay him, because I think this one's due in October. So that's what I'm a pretty reasonably decent example of what it looks like to be new to budgeting, because we have categories like this that we're having to double fund right now to make sure that we have the money sitting there and waiting for us when we get around to this expense, which is why we're not able to put as much money toward our debt every single month. And that will change obviously when these bills come due. But this is the beauty of the flexibility of budgeting, in that you can accommodate for things like this when you're first getting started, and making sure that you're bulking up certain categories in your budget enough so that the money is there and waiting for you when you need it. But then, it will kind of even itself out once you get around to paying for that expense. And so you'll see that kind of as we go along as well with our sinking funds. So that's actually what we'll move over to next. As I mentioned to you before, we are sort of following the Dave Ramsey baby step method. And so instead of figuring out or like throwing all of our money at debt after we figure out what our bills and expenses are. We actually move over to our sinking funds. And as I mentioned before, those are categories of your budget where the expense comes around, not maybe not monthly, but definitely like, 2, 3, 4 times a year. And you want to make sure that you have the money there waiting for you when you need to spend it. So that's what we move over to funding after we make sure that our bills and our expenses are taken care of. And so what we do is you just add up the total of everything in your bills and expenses category. And so that total for us was $6,386.33. And so subtracted from the $13,166.55 that we started with. Let's get our total here. So that leaves us a remainder of $6,780.22 in order to fund our sinking funds for the month. And so first up is car expenses. And so in our budget, this category funds the annual registration fee for our car in our state, and then also just putting money aside in the event of any kind of car emergency, making sure that, if a pop tire happens, we've got the money for that, making sure that we're getting regular oil changes, and just building this fund up so that in the event of a car emergency, that money is sitting there and waiting for us. Our battery actually just went this past week. And so, actually, no, I think that was 2 weeks ago. Either way, because we've been working on building this one up since January, we had the money so that when our battery went, we were able to get a new battery by paying cash for it instead of having to put it on a credit card, which was very, very nice. Home maintenance is a category of our budget that kind of does what car expenses does for the car. It does anything. It just is a fund that we're putting money toward every single month to save for anything in our house that might break. So that can be anything from buying new light bulbs, actually, to something happens to our dishwasher, or something happens to our vacuum, or I don't know, like a pipe freezes and bursts. Like, let's just pray that doesn't happen this winter. Things like that. So anything in your home that you want to be ready for in the event of like a home-related emergency. Medical is similar to that, except for this one also funds, what are they called? I'm losing my brain. Copays. Oh my gosh, that was ridiculous. So this money is basically for copays anytime we have to go to the doctor or the dentist or whatever. And then, if God forbid, like an urgent care or emergency room visit was necessary, this would also kind of help to pay that bill as well, because insurance is so lackluster when it comes to paying for any kind of emergency. So that's what that funds in our life. And we put $50 a month at it. If we can put more toward it, we do. But this is another one where it's like, I had to go replace my contacts last week, and there was like a copay, and then I had to pay extra for this other service or whatever. And so the medical fund covered that. And again, nothing went on our credit card, which was nice. Clothes is up next, and it's exactly what it sounds like. This funds any clothing purchases in our house. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we have 2 kids, and my husband and I are both tall people, and our kids are abnormally tall for their ages, and they grow very quickly. So clothing is something that is a regular expense in our house. We don't usually put $150 a month toward it, but my daughter went through a growth spurt and has grown out of a decent amount of her clothing. And so we are just beefing this one up so that we can replenish it, but also help fill the gaps in her wardrobe with things that she needs to wear. Haircuts is another one. It's a monthly expense, but it's also a sinking fund, and I'll explain. So my husband gets his haircut once a month, but my daughter is like every 3 to 6 months or so, and my son is currently growing his hair out, but he would be like every 3 to 6 months or so as well. So this money covers my husband's haircut every single month, and then puts a little bit aside for my kids to get their haircuts. His and hers is spending money for my husband and I. Yes, I know there's a disparity between the two numbers here. We're okay with it. So you should be too. Girls just spend more money than guys. That's the only way I can justify it. We're needier. But this also, so I will say this, if you're new to my channel, I fund my haircut with this spending money, and any like beauty thing that I might want for myself also comes from this as well. So it's not just like spending money, it's spending and beauty money. So anyways, Dine Out usually gets about $60 a month from us. It's why my grocery bill is so expensive. We hardly ever eat out ever. This usually is just enough to pay for my kids to have like Chick-fil-A maybe once or twice a month. And then, every now and then we might do something special with them, take them somewhere that's not Chick-fil-A and for all of us to enjoy. But by and large, we don't eat out ever. Work food is a category in our budget that we set up because my husband every now and then might have to have like a business lunch or whatever, or I might, decide that I want to grab something while I'm at work, like a coffee or something. Whoops, apparently I can't hold this pen. Like a coffee or something like that. And so we usually give it anywhere from like $20 to $40 a month. It just depends on what our wiggle room is like in our budget. Next up is dates, and it does not usually get this much money every single month from us, but I decided to throw extra at it. One, because it's a magic month, and two, because our anniversary is actually in September, and so we do want to make sure that we go on a date to celebrate that, and so we're just kind of beefing it up to accommodate that as well. So home is up next. This is home decor, which really just funds my coffee mug and candle obsession. And I never put this much money at it every single month. But again, it's a magic month, and we're coming up in my favorite time of year for candles, all of the warm, homey, cinnamony scents. And so I'm calling this self-care. The purchase of fall candles is self-care. Anyways, next up is family fun. It is a category of our budget that does exactly what it sounds like. It just kind of funds different fun activities that we may want to do as a family. This gets more money during the summertime than the fall and winter, but we like to make sure that when we take the kids to the zoo, because we have an annual zoo membership, which is further down here, we can do fun things for them every now and then, like get them an ice cream cone or go on the little train at the zoo or feed the giraffes or whatever. So we like to fund it. In the fall and winter, it will get anywhere between $15 and $30. It just depends on, again, the flexibility of our budget and what our needs are that month in particular. House project is going to irritate all of my friends who have OCD because I'm giving it $543 this month. That's just the way the cookie crumbled. I didn't do it on purpose. I pinky swear. Anyways, house project is a category of our budget where we are putting money aside for certain projects in our house that are a high priority to us. So this is the beauty of zero-based budgeting. This year already, we have saved to put ceiling fans in 3 rooms in our house. It also, actually, a house project ended up funding something I can't remember. Oh, we had to pay for a home inspection because our house is a new build. And so we had to pay for a home inspection for our year anniversary of living here to make sure that, everything was up to snuff. And so that ended up coming from house project as well. And so that's what I mean. It's like the money that you put towards stuff really does add up and build up so that you can do things with it. You just have to be disciplined and control your spending habits. I'm speaking to myself here. House project does not usually get this much from us every single month, but because it was a magic month, we wanted to earmark a little bit more money because we are currently saving. Our current house project goal is about $1,100 for gutters for our house. So you can see, like, some house projects really are a priority. Even though you have debt looming over you, we have to make sure that our house has gutters. So that's what we're saving for currently. Gifts is getting $40 this month. It is any gift that we may buy for anybody, including each other, our children, our kids' friends who have little birthday parties, that sort of stuff. And so this was just kind of like an arbitrary number that we picked out of a hat, and it seems to have worked for us so far. Every now and then we might throw a little bit of extra money toward it. If we've got like a wedding coming up or, I don't know, like a graduation or something like that. But by and large, $40 a month gets us through birthday party seasons with our kids. Partay, if you are new to my channel, this is a Ross Geller from Friends reference. He called a party a partay, and it just stuck in my brain, and so I went with it. This helps to fund birthday parties that we host for our kids, and then also any kind of little, if I have friends over for wine and cheese, that sort of thing, it funds that stuff. Back to school, exactly what it sounds like. We put money aside to fund the purchase of school supplies every year, backpacks if our kids need them, maybe some clothes, but mostly this just funds the school supplies. And then things that come up throughout the school year, which we learned we were not saving enough for last school year. Think like picture day or what do they call it at the end of the school year? Field day, like stuff like that. And so 50 is low compared to what we've been saving for it for the last couple of months. But I'm hoping that we can kind of settle somewhere between $20 and $30 a month, and that be enough to get us through the rest of the school year. So we'll see. I mean, it's one of those things where, like I said, you have to be flexible with yourself and just kind of figure stuff out as you go. Then the holidays. So Valentine's Day, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Valentine's Day, we've already experienced a Valentine's Day while cash stuffing, same with Easter. And so $5 a month and $7 a month for those categories was perfect. Like we had enough money in Valentine's Day and Easter based on, saving $5 and $7 a month to justify keeping these these numbers. Thanksgiving we have not had with the cash stuffing method yet and zero-based budgeting. So I don't remember what it's almost like they're sitting here and I can count them for you. So our current balance in Thanksgiving, no, it's after Halloween. Here we go. I make these envelopes and sell them in my shop, by the way. The link is below. So 150, 65. So we have 165 in Thanksgiving right now. And I am putting $20 at it for the month of September. And really, this is just going to fund the Thanksgiving Day meal and all of the baking that I do for Thanksgiving. So I will know, obviously, at the end of Thanksgiving if we've been putting enough money toward it and what we spend, so that next year we have a better picture of what we need to be putting toward it every single month. But right now I'm just kind of throwing like random numbers between $20 and $40 at it a month and hoping that it works, and we'll see when we get there. Christmas does not usually get $900 a month from us. This was another one of those categories where I said, we only started cash stuffing at the beginning of this year, and we weren't able to put enough money every single month toward Christmas in order to make sure that we had enough money there for us for our Christmas spending. So for example, we are saving $3,000 for this Christmas. Part of that is going to go toward taking our kids to go see the Nutcracker. And when we sat down and did the math of what we needed to save every single month, it's about $250 a month in order to make sure that we have the money there waiting for us for Christmas time. However, just the way that we were working out our budget and moving money to make sure that we had money waiting for us when we needed it for other expenses, we couldn't put $250 a month toward Christmas. And so we figured out that for our magic month, we would be able to put extra money toward it. And there have been some months where we have been able to put more than $250. And so we just kind of sat down and figured out what our funding plan would be for the year once we started budgeting and zero-based budgeting. And so we knew that for this magic month, we would be putting $900 toward Christmas. And so that's why it's getting it. Usually it's been anywhere from $100 to $250. It just depends on the month and what our month looks like from a budget standpoint. Zoo funds our annual Zoo membership. It gets $16 a month so that we make sure that we have enough money there at the end of February, because I think that's when maybe it's the beginning of February. It's February when our Zoo membership will renew. And right now our kids are still Zoo-aged kids, so this will change in our budget eventually someday. But for now, they seem to still really enjoy it, so we do it. And then the pool is our local community pool that we pay a membership for in the summertime, and it is ridiculously expensive, especially for what you're getting for the money. But my kids love the pool, and I actually love the pool and sitting outside. So we put $32 a month aside to make sure that we can fund our pool membership every year. So after that, and let me just say, sinking funds are super duper personal, and you may add some to your repertoire. Is that the word I'm looking for? As you go throughout the year. Like Zoo and pool were not on my channel. Like if you go watch some of my earlier cash stuffing videos, they were not on my channel in January. And Family Fun is new. I think even House Project is new. These are just things that we have kind of added throughout the year because we realize that they are important enough to set into our list of categories that we set money aside for. So if you are new to cash stuffing, new to zero-based budgeting or budgeting in general, take a couple of days and just write out a list of things that you know that you spend money on. If you're a person who likes their Starbucks every single morning, make sure that you have a coffee category. If you're a person who, likes to renovate your house, make sure that you have that category in your budget. Just make sure that you are accounting for all the different categories that you have in your budget so that you can start saving money for those things. And then also it will kind of help you realize what is a higher priority than other things. Like for example, we have a miscellaneous category in our budget, but it's just not getting money this month. Because we have also at this point, we've come to a point where we realize that these categories really do work the best for us. So we don't really need to add or subtract any, but if we do, we're flexible enough to just go ahead and add it in and figure out a way that we're going to be able to fund it. So, I'm showing you mine just so that you can maybe get an idea like, oh yeah, I need to have a clothes category or I need to have a work food category or whatever. But, it really is down. Everybody's expenses are so different. The things that you prioritize in your life are different than the things that I prioritize in my life. But the basic principles of this are the same. Work off of your bills and expenses, create sinking funds that work for you or your family or whatever. And then if you have debt, unfortunately, like we do, you need to put money toward that. You need to pay that down. The amount of money that we have put toward debt this year, instead of being able to fund anything else in our life, makes me so angry. So we definitely want to pay this off sooner rather than later. And so that moves us, excuse me, into this conversation. If you watch my original debt confession, we had 4 debts that we started with, I think. So we had a loan that we had taken out against my husband's 401k. We had 2 credit cards and our car. And the 401k loan is something that comes out of our paycheck. So my husband, we don't ever even see that money. It just is automatically deducted from his paycheck every single month, or every biweekly rather. And then otherwise, we paid off our first credit card after Q1. And so now we have 2 remaining debts that we are putting our money toward, and that is our car and our huge, we had one really big balance credit card. We've brought it down below 20K, but it started around 26 something. So all of our extra money after we add all of this up and figure out what is remaining goes toward debt. We do have goals. For example, right now we're putting all of our extra money toward our car, and we are paying just over the minimum payment for our credit card. Excuse me. I won't get into like the debt snowball method with you guys. I'm sure there are plenty of videos around, but basically the credit card will be getting $300 from us a month until we pay off our car. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. And then once we do pay off our car, all of our extra money is going to go toward that one ginormous credit card. And then we will have our giant credit card and the 401k loan left as far as our debt is concerned. So this is a zero-based budget. All $13,166.55 are accounted for in here. Whether we're going to be spending it that month or we're going to be saving it for future months, it's making our dollars work for us so that we can be as financially prepared for any life situation that may come our way when it does. Did my English make sense there? Basically, this is just making sure that you are making your money work for you. You work hard for it. So you should be spending it wisely, and you should be making sure that when you are spending it, it's for things that matter and are significant. So now that I've showed you our budget, I'm going to just move on. This is a question that I get a lot too, and I'm only sort of able to answer this for you. So the question that I get is, how do you take this and implement it? So what do you do on a weekly basis so that you make sure that your things are being paid, but you have enough money for your sinking funds and all that sort of thing? So I will move you on to my calendar here. So what I've done is I've written in the days of the month, and I've written in our paydays. So what I would say to you from this point going forward, this is actually something that my husband does. He goes through and maps out what gets what money when throughout the month. And so given that this is a sort of a how-to video, I'll kind of break down for you what he does. So what you need to do is figure out if you have due dates for any bills or expenses, write that out on your calendar. So like our mortgage is due on the 1st. Our car is due somewhere around here. And then I'm trying to think. I think jujitsu is like the beginning of the month. Yeah. So, I mean, you get the basic idea. Like, figure out when your mortgage is due, figure out when your water bill comes out, figure out when your insurance comes out, and any other auto draft or bills or anything. You need to map them out on your month so that you can then figure out how your pay is going to work for you. So this is my husband's pay. I am paid on the 5th and the 20th. So then based on the money that comes in and when it comes in, you can figure out, you can break it down. Some people do the budget by paycheck method. So instead of doing a monthly overview, they will say this pay is going to cover the bills from here to here. And then this pay is going to cover the bills from here to here. And then this pay is going to cover the bills from here to here. And this pay will cover the bills from here to here. That's sort of what my husband does when he maps out how our money is going to work for us. So he'll go and say, okay, we're making sure that this is covered, like this is covering the mortgage, and this is covering jujitsu, and this is covering the car, and this, you know what I mean? So he'll go through and map that all out. And then whatever is left from that, he splits up how we fund the other sinking funds and debt in our life. So that's where you got to kind of just be flexible with your dollars. So for example, we want to make sure that groceries is funded every single week because I go grocery shopping weekly. We want to make sure that household and toiletries is being funded every single week because those purchases just kind of crop up here and there, and you really want to make sure that you have the money there waiting for you for them. Other things like family fun or home decor or dates, I would say work them around everything else. Make that the last thing that you prioritize, because you really want to make sure that the things that you need weekly and your bills and expenses are the things that you prioritize funding first. So from there, what I do actually is I take my husband's plan and then I break it down even further. And I do this monthly funding plan. So I will write out every single category of our budget that we cash stuff for. And so that will get us into cash stuffing. There are some people who pull out every single dollar in their account or from their pay and stuff it. So even for their bills and expenses and things like that. My husband and I keep our bills and expenses money in our checking account, and we only cash stuff for sinking funds. So, for example, I never pull money out for mortgage or water or life insurance, car insurance, jujitsu, internet, phone, electric, things like that. I do cash stuff for groceries because I'm the one who grocery shops. And so then I take this money out. I split it up among all, this is going to be a five weeks for September, among all 5 weeks, so that I have money every single week to go grocery shopping with. The same with household and toiletries. So then on a weekly basis, if you go back and you watch any of my cash stuffing videos, I do have a cash stuffing playlist that I'll go ahead and leave linked for you guys. You'll see that then based off of each week's funding plan, I take that cash out and I put it in these envelopes. And that money builds up on a weekly and monthly basis to make sure that when these different events come, Christmas is empty right now because we just took it to the bank, actually. It's not empty because we've spent it. But it makes sure that you've got the money there waiting for you when you need to use it. So for example, in Zoo, we have $50, $70, $95, $96 waiting, and it just builds up so that every single week, this one isn't stuff weekly, but you get what I'm saying. Every single time we have the opportunity to fund these envelopes based on how we're doing it for the month, that money builds up and is there for you to spend in the event that you need it. So I have mine broken down into high priority sinking funds. Oh, that's going to fall. Low priority sinking funds and holiday sinking funds. And so high priority are things in our budget like groceries, which is empty, taxes, medical, car expenses, home maintenance, household, toiletries, clothes, finance coach, HOA. These are things where if we don't pay them, something bad happens. So if we don't fund household, we're not going to have paper towels. Or I'm drawing a blank. What do we fund from here? Paper towels, soap, not soap, like dish soap, cleaning supplies, things like that. If I don't fund toiletries, we don't have soap and toilet paper. If I don't have fun clothes, we don't have clothes, So these are things in our life that are super duper important. We want to make sure that we're putting money toward every single week, every single month, so that it's there waiting for us to spend when we need it. And that is how we do it. So if you go back and you watch any of my cash stuffing videos, you'll see how we fund these things on a weekly basis. And how you choose to break it down on a weekly basis is really up to you. Like I said, you want to make sure that you are putting money towards bills and expenses first, weekly expenses second, and then everything else that's a sinking fund is low on the totem pole as far as prioritizing it goes. You want to make sure that you've got the money there throughout the month, but it's not like when you fund it is not as necessary as focusing on when you fund your mortgage or your groceries, if that makes sense. So, oh, no, that's not right. There we go. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them below. I read every comment and I try to reply to every comment possible. But if you have a question and I don't get to it quickly enough, somebody in this community is going to help you. This budgeting community is a supportive one. We all want financial freedom for each other. We all want good budgeting, good fiscal responsibility. We all encourage each other toward that. I mean, at least the people on my channel, those of you who are subscribed to me, they're so supportive. So if I can't get to your question quickly enough, somebody is going to. This is a very supportive community. Like I said, I hope you found it helpful. If you did, I would love it if you would give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. This is what we do here. We do budgeting, we do debt payoff. Usually I'm much more fun and entertaining than this, but sometimes the nuts and bolts of setting up a budget are not very exciting. So that's just gonna be what it is for today's video. But I do hope that you found it helpful. And remember that even though our numbers may look different, the principles behind budgeting are the same. Everybody, you have a budget. Whether you actually actively pursue maintaining it or not is irrelevant. You still have one. And the best way of being able to have the most financial flexibility and freedom in your life is to actually be disciplined and diligent about it. So anyways, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and leave this one here. I will be back on Friday with a weekly check-in. So if you want to give that video a look, it will help you to kind of see how we go about handling a world where we, where we do cash stuff, but we use our debit cards. So that will be kind of like another informative one if you're interested in kind of seeing how I go about doing this zero-based budgeting method on a weekly basis and on a monthly basis. So until then, I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you on Friday. Bye, everyone.